Hello everyone, and welcome into a socially distanced production here of School Talk at the WJHI studios at Jeffersonville High School. I am Clay Abels joining you today, and with me is the Superintendent of Greater Clark County Schools, Mr. Mark Laughner. How are we doing today, sir?
Great. Glad to be back. It's been a little while.
I would say it has been a little while. First time having you in here in 2022. Let's start right where we're at here. It's January 27, 2022. A lot's changed, obviously, over winter break. We've seen COVID kind of come back and roar in here the last few weeks. I know we've had some e-learning days and some school closures. Tell us, from your standpoint as superintendent, I know we've talked a little bit in the past about having a cabinet, making decisions whether to stay open for school or do e-learning. Going forward, now that we're in January, I know we're still fighting the pandemic, what is the data telling people in terms of, do you expect to have more e-learning days? What's the latest in terms of COVID and how it's going to affect GCCS?
Yeah, our goal all along has been not to have e-learning days. We want to be in person with our students. We think that's the best method of learning for our students. We want them in school. Now, the issue with that is with this spike in cases here the last 2-3 weeks, the Omicron variant, we've had more staff get quarantined or test positive for that, and that's caused us some issues at various schools. And frankly, last week it got to a point where it wasn't only our teaching staff, but it was also food service staff at various schools and bus drivers, and we really had no choice but to go to e-learning, that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, just because we didn't have the staff to run schools safely. So, moving forward, we're going to continue to do what we've been doing, and that's manage it school by school, and look at the staffing for each school. And if we can staff the schools, all of our schools, we're going to be in person with all of our schools. If we have 1 or 2 schools that are struggling with staffing and we don't feel like it's safe to hold in-person learning because of the number of staff that are out, or we don't have the coverage, then we're going to, we'll go to e-learning for that individual school. But we do not want to have to shut down the whole district and go to e-learning moving forward.
As we speak today, January 27, 2022, obviously things can change, but what's the latest guidance today on mask policy? I know one of the things that's tougher is we're right at the end of basketball season here, so you do have crowds at Jeff Charlestown and New Washington. What's the guidance in terms of events and mask policy throughout the school system?
Yeah, that has not changed in terms of events. We're continuing that's optional in terms of when they come to an event. It's up to the fan whether they're wearing a mask or not. Obviously with the new variant out there, we hope that we're at the peak right now, and it's starting to fall. That's what we keep hearing from the health department, that this will peak and start to fall, and diminish, and that's a good thing. As far as in school, the mask mandate is still in place because that allows us, to quarantine less students. And like I said earlier, we want our students in school, and the less we can quarantine them, the better off we are, better off our students are and our staff. The one thing the CDC did there right after the first of the year is changed the quarantine days to 5 days versus 10, or 8, and so that's helped us quite a bit, with staff and students.
For you, I know back at the beginning of the pandemic, we had the option of doing all e-learning. So if you wanted to go online, you could be completely online and do the whole school year online. I know there's been some people asking and pushing about, will that be an option going forward? What's GCCS's policy in terms of, is there going to be another online learning option, or is it going to be still the plan to be all in person if possible?
Well, we would prefer students to be in person. Like I said, that's the best method of learning for students. I think that's been proven over the last 2 years, that students really need to be in school with their teacher in the classroom. Now, moving forward, we intend to have a virtual option next year. We realize that there still may be some things happening with COVID going into the next school year. So we'll have that in place. We're having those discussions right now in terms of what that looks like and when parents will sign up for that if they want their child in that virtual option. But we plan on offering something moving forward with a virtual option. However, we hope that students get back to in person.
Last question I'll ask you on COVID before we move forward. For you, when it comes to e-learning days, just to explain it to people, I know a lot of times for you, and you touched on it a little bit with the first question I asked you, it's not always about students. I know we've done pretty well in keeping students in school. It's really, I know, the big issue, having bus drivers, having staff members. How much of that is when school is canceled off. Not that students can't come in, but we just don't have enough people to be here to run the school.
That's a big part of it. You know, when you take a school like Jeffersonville High School and you have anywhere from 15 to 20 staff members that are out because they're quarantined or have tested positive, then you're in a situation now where, all right, if you have 15 to 20 staff members out, teachers, paras, and you can't cover those positions, you know, what are you going to do with the kids? You know, and you don't want to stick them all in the auditorium. Some districts around us have been doing that. You know, we don't want to do that, you know, because what learning's taking place if you just stick, you know, those kids that are in classes you can't cover and just put them in the auditorium with one teacher or two teacher or a para, you know, that's not something that we want to get into. So, you know, that's what we're looking at. You know, how many teachers are out? Can we cover the classes safely? Can we conduct school safely? You know, and then we make a final decision based off that.
I know one thing you have to deal with, certainly with weather and COVID and everything that just goes in between it, when we talk about is bus routes. I know you guys are working on some plans in terms, there's been some situations where it's been either with COVID or quarantine, there haven't been able to be bus drivers to get to bus routes. Tell us, what are some of the plans, hopefully, to alleviate that and have all the buses covered? What's the latest on that?
Well, you know, at the board meeting Tuesday night, we did bid out 6 routes, you know, to try to find, we think maybe a couple of contract driver organizations, maybe able to pick up a few of those. But it's tough right now. It's not just here in southern Indiana, it's all across the country in terms of finding people that have a CDL license with a passenger endorsement and air brakes and all that endorsements, or willing to go get it. You know, and so everybody's struggling. Every superintendent I've talked to in this area they're having to cancel routes also, you know, just like us. On any given day, if you have drivers call in or have them quarantined, you know. And so the other thing we're doing right now is we're just sending out a flyer this week to our classified staff to see if some of them would like to drive before school or after school. Go ahead and we'll pay for them to go get their CDL license, get their training, and then they could drive before school, after school, and then do their para position during the school day. Be a way for them to make extra money. We're also contacting the fire department. You know, most firefighters have their CDL license. Now they may need to add their air brakes or passenger endorsement on top of that, but you know, we're checking with them to see if they'll help us out. You know, when we're short any given day, would they help us out in the morning and afternoon, getting kids to and from school? So we're turning over every rock we can find to try to find more drivers and coming up with every idea that we can come up with to try to recruit people. You know, we've increased the pay when we did collective bargaining with our drivers. We feel like we pay a very good wage. So it's just tough right now. I saw a figure the other day that Indiana's unemployment rate is 2.7%, which essentially, you know, is full employment. You know, that the state is fully employed. You know, and so everybody's having a tough time right now.
If you're not a staff member, I know you talked about trying to get staff members to work, but if you're, say, a retired bus driver or somebody that may be interested in being a bus driver, what's the best way to reach out and contact you guys? Yeah,
contact our Human Resources Department, or you can contact or email Daniel Borders directly. But either one of them will get you going if you're interested in terms of getting the training and getting you on board, because we definitely need drivers.
Here with you all on School Talk today, 2022, January 27th, talking the latest in COVID, facilities, buses, all that's going on here at Greater Clark County Schools. And that's the next topic I'd like to transition to, is facilities. I know this is a big time right now for Greater Clark. You have the merging of Pleasant Ridge and Jonathan Jennings into one school. You also have Wilson Elementary and TJ going into one school. Tell us a little bit about how that process is moving and how you think that'll be a big addition for Greater Clark.
Well, it's exciting times, I think, and I appreciate the community supporting us with what we're trying to do with our facilities. You know, and we've talked a great deal about how we're going to do that without raising taxes on anyone, keeping the tax rate at $1.10. But you know, to be able to do what we're going to be able to do over the next couple years with not only what's going on today. I just left Jeff High's softball field and was up at Charlestown's softball baseball field that they're getting ready to finish up those turf projects on those fields probably within the next 2 or 3 weeks. They look fantastic. At the board meeting Tuesday night, we approved Core Construction Company to do our year one projects, which is going to do some renovations at River Valley, Charlestown Middle, also add classrooms at North Haven, do a renovation at North Haven where we're going to expand the gym, cafeteria, and add a few classrooms there, and also at Riverside, so that we can add pre-K space at those elementaries. So we have a lot of great things going on with that year one part of the plan, but year two is even more exciting because we are now moving forward with building 2 new elementaries. The architects were approved Tuesday night at the board meeting. We will build a probably right at a $32 million facility on the Wilson property that will merge Wilson Elementary and TJ Elementary together, and then we'll build a sister school that's very similar to that, right at $32 million on the Jonathan Jennings property up in Charlestown that will merge Pleasant Ridge Elementary and JJ. And what it does for the community, I mean, it just, number one, to have 2 brand new schools that'll be state-of-the-art and look fantastic. That helps with your recruitment, your enrollment, number one, in the Charlestown area and that part of the Jeff area. But also as a district, when you're merging 4 schools into 2, it makes us much more efficient financially as a district. And that sort of goes back to our mission of we need to be more financially efficient in the district so that we can get more resources to the classroom to help students and teachers. So it all fits together, to try to do that, those pieces of the puzzle.
I know you've talked about this a little bit before, but explain to people when they see 2 elementary schools coming into one, and I guess the main topic I want to focus on is this. People say, well, why not just renovate the schools? But I know we've talked a little bit about this in the past. I know Laura Hubing, our CFO, she's come in and talked a little bit about it. It's actually financially more efficient to build a new school than to renovate an old one just because of the efficiency. Is that correct? Absolutely.
And when you look at the long-term impact, let's use the Wilson property, the new school that would go there, that would merge TJ and Wilson. If we wanted to renovate both TJ Elementary and Wilson, we've had 2 architects and a couple other companies look at that and estimate that that would cost somewhere between $25 and $30 million, probably closer to 30 since prices have gone up, to renovate those 2 buildings. Well, we can build a brand new one for 32. And a brand new building is going to get you another 50, 60 years of life into the future. If you renovate an old building, it's going to get you an extra 20 to 25. So it just makes sense to build a new building so that we're looking out for the long term of the district, that this is going to be better for the district in 20, 30, 40 years.
On those elementary school combinations with Pleasant Ridge and Jonathan Jennings and Wilson and TJ, both of them getting, the combination, having 2 separate schools there, what's the timeline on those projects? When do you hope to get started and when do you hope to finish?
Well, right now we're jumping real quick into the planning design phase, which will take a good 6 months. And then once we come up with a design, we'll probably sell the bonds for those projects sometime in late October, early November. Our hope would be that those projects get started, not this coming March, April, but the following year.
So 2023.
2023, and we would hope that they would be done, and this would be pushing it in August of 2024. That's a pretty aggressive agenda, especially with all the supply chain delays. But more than likely, it may end up being January of 25. But so typically it takes about 18 months to build a new elementary. That's after you have everything designed and everything in place. Architectural plans, it takes about 18 months to build it.
Last thing I want to talk on facilities, and you touched on it a little bit. Besides elementary schools, I know a lot of people are excited. New athletic complexes coming for Jeff and Charlestown. What's the status on those and timeline, and how do you think those are going to be something that really push people into Greater Clark?
Yeah, here at Jeff High, as you know, in year one, we're doing new tennis courts. Our hope and what we've asked the architects to make sure it gets done and our CMC contractors that those tennis courts are done by August 1st. You know, the building may not be done by August 1st, but we want the courts done by August 1st. You know, the building may take a couple more months. You know, so, you know, we'll get those projects started here in March. You know, that's the plan, March, April, to get things going. You'll start seeing construction going on and land clearing and things like that. And then hopefully they'll be done within a year is what our hope is. So we're going to try to move pretty aggressively on those, you know, those year one projects. And also going back to the locker rooms, that should construction should start on the locker room out here at Jeff High the 1st of March. Sometime that first, second week of March they should get going, and that'll take about close to a year to finish. You know, 6 to 8 months to a year. Same up at Charlestown with their locker room project.
So February, March, April is going to be pretty busy for you.
Yes, it is. We're going
between elementary schools and athletic facilities. That's a lot to take on at one time. I know you said yesterday there's how many different architects we have for. I know we have separate for school and all that goes on. I know you had to approve that yesterday.
Yeah, you know, at Tuesday night's board meeting for the two new elementaries, we'll have Jamie Lake Architects and also Lancer Beebe. Lancer Beebe did our facility study. They're going to pair together to work on the two new elementaries. Typically when you build a new elementary, you have at least two architects working on that because there's so many drawings that have to be done. You know, the mechanical drawings, you know, just the footprint, you know, of the facility and all that. And then for year one projects, we've worked with Jamie Lake on the drawings and the scope of what we want to do in each building. We just, you know, and then we bid that out, and Core Construction, who built the Franklin Square Elementary, won the bid to do the year one projects.
That's fantastic. I know Franklin turned out well. We enjoyed being down there on the school opening last year. Last thing for you, I know there's a lot on the plate we talked about with facilities and buses and COVID. As we end it here today, anything you want to say to Greater Clark community? I know it's been a crazy month coming back here for 2022. Anything you'd like to tell the people of GCCS?
Well, hang in there. I mean, I think there's better times ahead in terms of the whole COVID thing, and at some point we'll get back to normal, you know, as close to normal as we can in terms of not having to quarantine all students and argue about masks and things of that nature. I think that day is coming at some point. And also, you know, just once again, I want to thank the community. I mean, the community has supported us in terms of the 5-year facility plan and what we want to do, and our commitment to get our facilities right. You know, and we appreciate the support of the community in that regard, because, you know, we want to right from the get-go. Obviously the most important thing is to get our facilities updated, but also we don't want to negatively impact the taxpayer. And I think I hope our taxpayers appreciate that and understand that we're committed to that, you know, moving forward, that we will monitor that year to year, make sure we stay at that $1.10 tax rate. So, but I do think, you know, Greater Clark, we're doing a lot of great things. And the neat thing this year, finally at the start of this year, we were able to get back to discussing academics in depth. You know, that's been the great thing this year. Last year was such a whirlwind, but we've gotten back to what we're all here for, and that's academics and making sure that we're growing our students academically. We're looking at new programming at each school, you know, in terms of our pathways and things like that, and that's been good. And I think, you know, for us, that's what we need to do. That's what we should be doing.
Well, Mr. Laughner, we appreciate you coming in. Like I said, I know you got a busy calendar coming up, but good things on the calendar, exciting things. And like I said, excited to see what's going on in Greater Clark, and hope to have you back in soon.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That is Mark Laughner, our superintendent of Greater Clark County Schools here. As I am Clay Abels on School Talk with you today on January the 27th, 2022. Just a reminder, you can watch the replay of School Talk on our multitude of platforms here at WJHI, on cable 184 throughout the week, radio at 98.5 FM, and on audio stream at WJHI.com, as well as being online through our social media channels. We have WJHI on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram, where you can watch this show replay on video. For Mark Laughner, I'm Clay Abels saying so long until next time with another edition of School Talk. This is 98.5 WJHI LP Jeffersonville, home of the Red Devil Network.